Hi there. Today we're going to be having a look at queries in Microsoft Access, and we're going to do this using the Tuckshop database exercise that you'll find on the web page. At the bottom of the exercise you'll find the TuckshopDB Microsoft Access file. Please download and copy that to a suitable folder as I have done here. Then open that with Microsoft Access. If it asks you whether you want to enable the content, please say yes. It probably will if you've downloaded that from the internet. You'll find that there are two tables. There's the item types table, which we can open in design view. That contains just an ID and the item type. Close, and you'll see if we view it, they're the various items we have in the table. And then we have the items table, which has an ID, item name, an item type, which links across to the item types table, cost price, markup, and stock. So its content looks like that. The link that I talked about can be visualized this way. We've got item type with the ID field of item type linking to the item type field in items. And this enables Microsoft Access to provide the drop-down list which you'll find in the items table. If we look at item type, you can see I can choose one of the items. All right, that link is what makes it possible. Okay, let's have a look at the questions, which for convenience I'm opening on the sidebar on the right hand side here. So first off, show all items in the category chips. We're going to create a query to do this. In the top menu you'll find create, and we'll use the query wizard, a simple query wizard, and make sure you choose the right table. This one is opened up on item types because that's the one I had selected right at the start. So I'm going to go and make sure I select items, and now we can show all the fields. You can use the single arrow to move them across one at a time, or the double arrow to move them all across to the selected fields block. And we're not going to edit this in any way, so finish. And here we are. This is a very basic query that just shows all the fields and all the data. It looks a lot like the items table itself. So we can close the items table, and this is the items query. Can close that one. And you'll notice that it automatically saved as soon as I closed it. I can open the items query again. All right, let's have a look at the second question. Show the stock of a particular type of item. So you must ask the user to type something like cool drink, chips, chocolate, whatever is appropriate. Let's go to the query wizard again. And a simple query wizard. And pay attention here. Under tables and queries, you'll notice that at the moment I have queries, items query. It's going to try and base this query on the query that we made a moment ago. Select that drop-down box and make sure that you choose the items table. We're going to be working with the items table. I want to show the item name. I'm going to use the item type as my particular criteria, and we're going to be showing the stock. So next, we're not doing anything in this particular screen, but I can go to modify the design. We're going to get there in a moment, but I want to show you what it gives us first. So let me just go back to open the query, and we can give this a slightly more descriptive name. Let me call this query question 2, just for now. You'll see that what it gives me is a list very similar to the first query, but it doesn't include all the columns. I now need to select just the chips or just the cheeses. So let's go and modify this design. We're going to go to the Home tab and open in Design View. This is the query designer. You've got the tables that you're working with that are moving around on the screen at the moment, and then underneath that the particular fields from the tables are showing there. I say tables because you can have more than one table in the designer. We're going to work with the item type field, which is the one I've highlighted, and with the criteria row. We want to add a criteria that will filter everything by a particular type. And I can ask someone what criteria to use by putting the question inside square brackets. What type to view? There we go. Now, you'll see that's inside square brackets. Watch what happens when I go to the View option in the tab at the top. View. What type to view? Alright, so now I can say chocolate, and as long as I have spelt that correctly, but what I have is an error. And at its cause, we have to think in terms of what's happening here. Item type, remember, was a relationship between item types and items. And if I look at the table itself, this is the items table, and I go to design view, you will see item type is a number. There we are. The different numbers in items represent different things. Number 1 represents a cool drink, number 2 is chips, number 3 is chocolate, number 4 is cheese, and so on. This query is quite limited at the moment. So what type to view? If I say view and I type 3, I'll get all the chocolates. To enable it to select the word chocolate, I'll have to join those two tables. That's a slightly more advanced exercise, and we'll look at that a little bit later. For now, I have to type the number that represents the chocolate to be able to show the chocolate. Okay. Yes, let's save that query. Now for question number 3. List all the items alphabetically. We've gone from a slightly harder question to a slightly easier one. We're going back to the query wizard. We're going to select everything. Make sure that you have the items table selected again. They say list all the items alphabetically. So we can finish. And I'm going to go home and modify this design. You'll notice that I'm adding a new query every time. Each of the queries in the question paper over here requires something different. And as such, I'll have to create a new query for each question. Otherwise, what I did for the previous query gets wiped out. And whoever's looking at your work will have no record of what you've done. So for each question here, and if you get a similar thing in a test paper, for each question there, make sure you create a new query. Right, we need to sort the items alphabetically. So I'm going to be working with the names of the items. There we are. And you'll see it's got on the left-hand side, sort. So under sort, under that particular column that I highlighted a moment ago, I can select ascending. Now, if I go to view, you'll see all the names of the items are sorted in ascending order. Appetizer, bar 1, beef and onion, C, whatever that is, chicken mayo, Coke, Fanta, Kit Kat, and so on. We can close, and if it asks you whether you want to save changes, yes. Always say yes when it asks you whether you want to save changes, because otherwise you lose the work that you've done. We can also rename this if we want to. I've got an items query and an items query 1. Which one is which? Well, the second one is the one that I created last, so I'm going to call that query for question 3. And we can rename the first one query for question 1. The query has to be closed before you can rename it. Looking at question 4, list all the items in order of stock, showing the smallest quantities first. This is much like the sort alphabetical question. We're going to create, using the query wizard, OK, and we can choose everything again, but I'm going to be sorting it according to item type this time. Next, next, and just to illustrate, instead of finishing and then going to the design view, you'll see here we've got modify the design. I can go directly to that design view by choosing that option. Right, we're going to be sorting it again, but this time in order of stock. So that is there, the one that we have just selected, showing the smallest quantities first. So I want to sort it in ascending order, going up. View, there we are. 3, 5, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, 20, lots of 20s and then 100. Right, we can close that. And again, it's going to ask me if I want to save. Yes. And it's saying query 1 query. So I made a bit of a mistake here. If we look at the design view again, give it a chance to illustrate, you'll see it's based on query 1 up at the top there. I needed this actually to be based on the items table. Coincidentally, it works in this instance because query 1 gave a full listing of the items table. But that sort of thing can cause serious problems. If I changed query 1, then the data in the second query would also change. So I'm going to delete this one. We might as well save it first, but then we're going to go and delete. I had to close it first before I can delete. You can't delete something that's open. And let's recreate it quickly. Create using the query wizard. Okay. Make sure where at the moment it says query 2 that you select from items. Modify the design, and we're going to sort it in ascending order according to stock. There we go. The same thing visible because query 1 that I was originally using gives the same view of the information. Yes, we want to save that. And now you'll see items query. It's actually based on items, which is why the name. So rename query question 4. Next, list all the items with a price between £2.50 and £4. So we're going to go to items. Selecting items first makes it easier to make sure that you don't select from the wrong table. You'll notice now that this is based on automatically table items and not one of the other options which could have happened. It only asks for all the items, so I'm going to just choose item name, and we can use the price as well. You don't have to display all the fields that you use in your query. In this one, just to illustrate, I'm only going to display item name. So next, and we go to modify the design, and here we are in the design view. And you'll notice at the bottom I have item name and cost price. Now it says between £2.50 and £4. So we're going to criteria over here, and I can say bigger than 2,5. My computer is set to use a decimal comma, set to use South African localizations, so I'll have to use a comma, and less than 4. Also decimal comma. It doesn't say whether £2.50 and £4 should be included or not, so I'm treating this as strictly between, in other words, excluding the endpoints. There we go, view. And here we have all the values that are between those two values. If I go to the design view again, if I didn't want to show the cost price, I just wanted to list the items, notice that I also have a show option on the left hand side. My criteria will still work, even though I've just taken the tick off next to show. It's still going to evaluate this cost price column, but it won't show it anymore. Okay, we can save that one. Yes, we're going to save it, and we can rename it to something more appropriate. Query question 5. Last one, list all the items with a price less than £2.50 or more than £4. So I'm going to select the items table again, query wizard, simple query, and I'm just going to show item and mark cost price again. There we go. Next, modify the design. We are busy with cost price. This is an exercise in Boolean logic. I want less than £2.50. So 2,50. But I can't use and. A value can't be both less than £2.50 and bigger than £4. So instead, you'll notice that Access gives us this all line as well. I can say bigger than 4,00 over there. And now when I go to view, I'll have all the ones that are less than 4 or less than £2.50 and bigger than 4. So everything up to 2 and everything over 8 in this instance. Also, just like with the previous query, I can say do not show the cost price, and then I just list the items. Okay, save the changes, and we're done. You can just close Access when you're finished, like that. Access is very nice, it saves automatically for you. And that's it. I hope that gives you an idea of how we can use queries, at least with one table, to work with your data and filter it in various ways. All right, see you again next time. Bye for now.